The cleaning industry can be brutal. I recently sold my company this year. It is June of 2025 at the time of this recording, and I sold my company on May 31st of 2025. So I now have the luxury to look back in retrospect and think about some of the things that I have gone through and experienced as a business owner in this industry. And I think it would be helpful to shed some light on those experiences so that you can understand that what you're experiencing now is not isolated and you're not alone. So when I started this company, like many of you probably, I did not actually start this company. I started a completely different one in the same industry. So I didn't start residential and commercial cleaning. I actually started vent hood cleaning. If you don't know what vent hood cleaning is, you know those big vent hoods that are above the grill in restaurants in the kitchen? Those have to be cleaned in a really specific way so that the restaurant can stay up to code and that the fire marshal will still pass, because that grease is a fire hazard. Well, when I was launching this business, it was actually in 2020. So in 2020, when all of the restaurants shut down, that was right after I had purchased all of this equipment, including a hot water power washer, which, if you do not know, that was an extremely big investment, especially for me at the time. And then also I had a van. So we had some expenses with that business that I had just put money into. And a few months later, literally all of the restaurants closed down. I actually didn't have my own house at the time because I couldn't afford it. So I was living with my boyfriend's mom. She was an absolute sweetheart, gave me a place to live. And I would sit in the living room, cold call restaurants for hours. And almost none of them said yes, almost none. But I landed one chain. And I actually think that was from like a cold email that I think basically the cold calling was for nothing. So I was very excited that we got this chain. And the only problem was that this chain was open 7 days a week. So we could only do the vent hood cleaning in the middle of the night. And it's not like the restaurant closed at 9. I'm pretty sure they closed at midnight, if I remember correctly. So I would drive the van for hours because it was not in the city that I live in. It was a couple hours away. So I would drive for hours in the middle of the night with all of my machinery. I actually could not start the power washer by myself most of the time. So I desperately needed other people, plus the structure of the company, I needed a team for anyway. So I used an employment agency to help with the employment side of things. And I would have to go to the employment agency in the middle of the night and pick up my crew, mostly all middle-aged men who I had no rapport with whatsoever, had no official training in place for this restaurant cleaning. Anyway, so I would take this crew basically to the middle of nowhere to do this vent hood cleaning, and it was so hard. I don't think I have ever done anything so hard in my life in terms of my job, in terms of like physical labor. Everything felt like £1,000,000 to me. Getting the power washer even out of the van was so dangerous because I had to rig up a ramp that was like homemade. There was no official like ramp to get it out. We couldn't carry it because it was too heavy. So we had to make a ramp for the back of the van that like slid out on one wheel. It was so hard. We would be up on the roof climbing ladders. It was extreme liability. Everything that we did was so dangerous. Obviously, inside the restaurant, we would have to have the power washer to clean out the vent hood. As you can imagine, running a power washer in a kitchen, in a commercial kitchen, was crazy. We would wrap everything in plastic, but I had no idea what I was doing. We would have to cover all of the food prep with plastic. It was wild. I learned how to do this from one mentor and YouTube videos, essentially. And as you can imagine, so many things went wrong. One time I was using the hot water power washer, and that hot water, I don't even remember what it gets to. 200 degrees, I don't know, something insane, because nothing else would take the grease off. So that hot water power washer was intense, and I accidentally swiped across my boot, and it went all the way, the hot water basically chopped the front of my boot off and like cut through my skin. One time a restaurant opened the next day after we cleaned it and their grill wouldn't start, so I thought I was going to have to buy like a $2,000 commercial grill. Luckily, they were able to troubleshoot it. One time a restaurant opened and their vent wouldn't open, so they couldn't actually open the restaurant. So many things went wrong. It feels comical looking back, but in that moment I thought, I don't know if I am built to run a company. I really just don't know if I'm built to run the company. All of that was like outside getting new contracts, getting new business at all, marketing and advertising. I had no idea what I was doing. I had an employee steal from me. I cut her a check and the check took a long time to get through the mail, and she pretended like it didn't actually come in the mail. So I was like, oh, I'll just come bring you cash. I brought her cash, so she deposited the check and the cash at the same time. I was like, oh my God. So many things went wrong. It was insane. So whatever you're experiencing right now, just know, again, this is me just telling you that it's not isolated. It's not just you. Things are just bound to go wrong when you start a new business and when you're building up that skill. Until you really understand what's going on and have like a few years under your belt, you're going to feel like you're in a state of like constant chaos. Something that really helped me when I started to kind of gauge that skill level that I needed and what I should actually be doing throughout the day and how to run my business where it didn't feel like a constant state of chaos was figuring out what my constraint is. So I say this all the time, and I know constraint kind of feels like a term that doesn't make sense. A constraint just means, what is the thing that's keeping your business from growing to the next level? Like, what's the true thing that's keeping you where you're at now, like keeping you stuck? Because if you're feeling stuck right now, there's probably like one major thing that you need to change to get you past that level. And usually that's what we call the constraint. So I like to think of it like a little bottle, and it's whatever the little bottleneck is. So if you're trying to like pour water out of a bottle, it's not going to all come out at once because there's that little bottleneck, right? So only like so much can come out. Something is causing that bottleneck in your business. And if you can identify what that constraint is, that's where you need to be spending all your discretionary effort. So if I could go back and tell myself one thing and get myself through those like 3 years of just like constant chaos in my company, I would say, Morgan, look at the true constraint. Identify the true constraint and focus on that. So spend your like 9 to 5, usually in the cleaning business it's like 7:30 to 6. Spend your 7:30 to 6 running day to day, okay? Because somebody has to do it, somebody has to run the company. Outside of that, your discretionary effort needs to be whatever your bottleneck is. So if there's like one thing in your company, maybe it's sales, maybe it's marketing, maybe it is team strategy, maybe it is management, maybe it is a skill that you need to develop. Whatever it is, all your discretionary effort gets put into that. What I would do is like spin my wheels on literally everything. So I would force rank all of the problems in my company and think they were all number one. And I'm like, well, I'm just gonna have to split my time evenly between literally all of the issues, all of the fires going. I need to make sure that I'm an expert marketer. I need to make sure that I'm an expert salesperson. I need to make sure that I have the perfect team structure. I need to make sure that I blah, 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 blah. And I would spend all my time spread out between like a million different things. But if I could go back, I would say, Morgan, spend time on the true constraint. And then once you're past that and at the next level, move on to the next true constraint. Because time is so valuable. And again, if I could just go back and help myself in that way, that's the best advice that I could give. I hope this makes you feel a little bit less alone today. If you are struggling, if you're in a period of chaos in your company and you feel like you're alone and you feel like you're the only one who ever has experienced this, you're not. I know that it's really hard to run a company like that when your mind is just in like a million different places and you're extremely stressed and depressed sometimes and lost. I know that it can make you want to quit, but you can also get past it. You can get past it and you can build a company that you're really, really proud of, that you're really proud to run, and that can be super valuable for your future. So with all that being said, I hope this makes you feel a little less alone and a lot more motivated to get through those times, because I promise you will eventually get to the other side of it. And it is possible to build a business that you're super proud of that doesn't feel like a constant state of chaos. I'll see you in my next one.